ذات الصدور آمنوا بالله ورسوله وأنفقوا مما جعلكم مستخلفين فيه فالذين آمنوا منكم وأنفقوا لهم أجر كبير.
Is it there? No.
وما لكم لا تؤمنون بالله والرسول يدعوكم لتؤمنوا بربكم وقد أخذ ميثاقكم إن كنتم مؤمنين هو الذي ينزل على عبده آيات بينات ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وإن الله بكم لرؤوف رحيم وما لكم ألا تنفقوا في سبيل الله ولله ميراث السماوات والأرض لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل أولئك أعظم درجة من الذين أنفقوا من بعد وقاتلوا وكلا وعد الله الحسنى والله بما تعملون خبير صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد
ما شاء الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. First, I'd like to request all of you to recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumeen who provided the iftar dinner tonight, and all your marhumeen with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Tonight is the night of the 21st of Ramadan, Shahadat Amir al-Mu'mineen, and of course one of the nights of Shab Qadr. We will have Amal of Shab Qadr after the speech and Naha and Lutmiya. So we'll start the program with poetry. We'll have a speech with Sheikh Vinay, and then we'll have Lutmiya. We will have Tabut also taken out here in the men's section and also in the women's section. And after that we will take a 5 minutes break after Naha Lutmiya, and then we'll start the Amal. So without further ado, I'd like to request Brother Mahdi Rizvi to come and recite poetry with Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
One more announcement before I let Brother Mahdi start. Parking is filling up in our parking lot. So again, just a reminder to new people who we see, mashallah, many new faces at the center in the last few days. We have permission from our neighbors to park on their properties in the evenings. So our programs are in the evenings, their offices are closed. So the property to the east of us, the adjacent property right where we share the wall with them, on that property you have permission on the east side of us to park, and similarly on the west side, the adjacent property right before the traffic light, We have their permission, so we share a wall with them, so they're right to the west of us. That property we also have permission from the owners to park. So as our parking lot starts to fill up, I request the attendees to please drop your families and then please go and park the cars either on the west side of us, on the adjacent property, or the east side adjacent property. With that, I'd like to request Brother Mahdi Razvi to start poetry with Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
سر علی کا سجدائے خالق میں ضربت کے لیے سر علی سجدائے خالق میں ضربت کے لیے حشر تک ایک داغ رسوائی ہے امت کے لیے گھر لٹایا جان تک دے دی ہدایت کے لیے گھر لٹایا جان تک دے دی ہدایت کے لیے اور کیا کرتے گنہگارانی امت کے لیے سر علی کا حیدر کرار سے ورثہ ملا اولاد کو حیدر کرار سے ورثہ ملا اولاد کو ہو گئی قسمت شہادت ہر امامت کے لیے سر علی کا سجدائے خالق میں ضربت کے لیے گھر میں خالق کے امیر المومنی کا قتل ہو گھر میں خالق کے امیر المومنی کا قتل ہو مسجد کوفہ بنی تھی اس قیامت کے لیے سر علی کا سجدائے خالق میں ضربت کے لیے
to request Brother Haidar to come and start the rest of the poetry. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
آواز بلند نعرہ صلوات. بارے دیگر نعرہ صلوات.
محمد وآلہ
منتخب کتنے اشعار اپنوں کی پیش خدمت. وہ لوح بشر ہوں، افضل ہے فرشتوں سے جو، وہ لوح بشر ہوں. ابا بھائی افضل ہے فرشتوں سے جو، میں فاطمہ زہرا کی دعاؤں کا سر ہوں، وہ لوح بشر ہوں. ہے مقصد تخلیق میرا ماتم شبیر، ہے مقصد تخلیق میرا ماتم شبیر. میں داخل تمنا محمد کا سر ہوں، لوح بشر ہوں. دور پڑے گا محمد آل محمد. مولا علی کے حوالے سے سلام، بہت قدیم سلام آج آپ لوگوں کے سامنے پیش کر رہا ہوں. درود پڑے گا محمد آل محمد. ملتزم کعبے کا آ پہنچا صفائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا آ پہنچا صفائی کے لیے. بتوں اب اور گھر ڈھونڈو خدائی کے لیے، بتوں اب اور گھر ڈھونڈو خدائی کے لیے. ملتزم کعبے کا چیرتے ہیں کلائے اجدر کو جھولے میں علی، آج پہلی مشق ہے خیبر کشائی کے لیے. ارے آج پہلی مشق ہے خیبر کشائی کے لیے. درود پڑھیں محمد آل محمد. ملتزم کعبے کا ہر دو کیا مرحب کو حیدر نے تو بولی ذوالفقار، ہر ہاتھ ہاتھ ایسا چاہیے تیرا آزمائی کے لیے، ہاتھ ایسا چاہیے تیرا آزمائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا رن میں گھونگھٹ تو اٹھا، ہر سر لیے لاکھوں کھڑے ہیں رونمائی کے لیے، سر لیے لاکھوں کھڑے ہیں رونمائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا۔ اور کہتے تھے عباس میں سقا ہوں فوج شاہ کا، اور خون کے دریا بہا دوں گا ترائی کے لیے، خون کے دریا بہا دوں گا ترائی۔ درود پڑھیے محمد آل محمد۔ ملتزم کعبے کا، اور چونک اٹھتی تھی سکینہ نام سن کر شاہ کا، اور جب کبھی روتی تھی زینب اپنے بھائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا آ پہنچا صفائی کے لیے، اے بتوں اب اور گھر ڈھونڈو خدائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا۔ درود پڑھیے محمد فاتحہ۔ رو کے روز قتل امیر عرب ہے یار، رو کے روز قتل امیر عرب ہے یار، پیٹو کے روز حشر ہے، ضربت کی شب ہے یار، پیٹو کے روز حشر ہے، ضربت کی شب ہے، اور بزم عذاب میں آ کے نہ رونا غضب ہے آج، غم سے حسن حسین کی حالت عجب ہے آج، پایا جو محب بندگی بے نیاز میں، تلوار روز تمہاری نماز میں پہنچی بگوش حضرت زینب جو یہ صدا رو کر جناب شبیر سے کہا جاؤ خدا کے واسطے مسجد میں تم ذرا کہتا ہے کوئی قتل ہوئے شاہ لافتہ کس نے کیا شہید امام حجاز کو ارے بابا ابھی تو گھر سے گئے تھے نماز کو بابا ابھی تو گھر سے گئے تھے نماز کو یہ سن کے دوڑے جانبے مسجد حسن حسین دیکھا کہ رو رہے ہیں نمازی بشور و شین اور خون میں اپنے لوٹتے ہیں شاہ مشرقین سر اپنا پیٹنے لگے زہرا کے نور غم سے کلیج دونوں کے سینوں میں پھٹ گئے چلا کے ہائے بابا کہا اور لپٹ گئے چلا کے ہائے بابا کہا لپٹ گئے حضرت کے گرد جمع تھے اصحاب باوفا فرماتے تھے ہر ایک سے آنسو بہا بہا تم سے وسیع رسول کا ہوتا ہے اب جدا وہ پوچھ لے وے آج جسے جو ہو پوچھنا غم میں ہمارے خواب سروں پر اڑاؤ گے کل خوش مصطفیٰ کو نہ دنیا میں پاؤ گے کل خوش مصطفیٰ کو نہ دنیا میں پاؤ گے کی عرض رو کے اس نے کہ یہ شاہ لافتہ رتبہ زیادہ آپ کا ہے یا کہ نوح کا فرمایا جب کہ امت سرکش نے کی جفا کی حق میں ان کے نوح سے صابر نے بدعا ہر باندھا ستمگاروں نے گلا ریسمان سے میں نے دعائے بد نہ کی کبھی بھی زبان سے میں نے دعائے بد نہ کبھی کی زبان سے اور دوسرے سعید نہ تھا نوح کا پسر کافر رہا صدا نہ ہوا دین سے بہرور میرے پسر رسول کے ہیں پارے جگر یہ دونوں لال عرش الہی کے ہیں گوہر سردار اہل خود ہیں عالی مقام ہے نانا نبی ہے باپ امام آپ امام ہے نانا نبی ہے باپ امام امام ہے، روتے ہوئے ودا ہوئے شہ کے دستدار، زینب بلائیں لینے لگی رو کے زار زار، بیٹوں سے تب یہ کہنے لگے شاہ ذوالفقار، آؤ میرے قریب کے ہے وقت اختصار، یہ سن کے روتے روتے دم ان کے الٹ گئے، 12 پسر علی کے قدم سے لپٹ گئے، 12 پسر علی کے قدم سے لپٹ گئے، روئے علی حسن کو گلے سے لگا لگا، اور ہاتھ ان کے ہاتھ میں 9 بیٹوں کا دیا، عباس نامدار کے حق میں نہ کچھ کہا، ارے چپ کے کھڑے تھے سامنے اور رنگ زرد تھا، پاس ادب سے باپ سے کچھ کہہ نہ سکتے تھے، ماں ان کو دیکھتی تھی وہ ماموں کا تکتے تھے، ماں ان کو دیکھتی تھی وہ ماں کا تکتے تھے، ام البنی سے رو کے علی نے کہی یہ بات، دیتا حسن کے ہاتھ میں کیوں کر میں اس کا ہاتھ، شیدا تیرا پسر ہے شبیر خوش صفات، اور عاشق حسین ہے عباس نیک ذات، شان بہادری ہے تیرے نور عین میں، اس کا ازل سے ہاتھ ہے دستے حسین میں، اس کا ازل سے ہاتھ ہے دستے حسین میں، عباس کو بلا کے گلے سے لگا لیا، ہاتھ اس کا دے کے ہاتھ میں شبیر کے کہا، اے لال یہ غلام تمہارا ہے باوفا، میری طرح سے پیارا اسے کیجیو صدا، میری طرح سے پیار اسے کیجیو صدا، آفات کا دن جو تجھ کو مقدر دکھائے گا، اس روز یہ غلام بہت کام آئے گا، اس روز یہ غلام بہت کام آئے گا، یہ سن کے ساری بیویاں روتی تھی زار زار، اور لوٹتے تھے خاک پہ زہرا کے گلزار، ارے 2 دن تلک علی رہے بستر پہ بے قرار، فرزند کو گلے سے لگاتے تھے بار بار، آنسو کبھی رواں تھے کبھی لب پہ آتی، 21ویں شب آئی تو حالت تباہ تھی، 21ویں شب آئی تو हाला तबाहती रो के रोज कत्ल मौला को गम दे आप लोगों को सवाए गम हुसैन के बराए सेहत और सलामती तमाम मोमिनीन मोमिनात बुलंद तरीन सलावत
Inshallah, we'll continue our program, but before we do, I'd like to request Brother Muntazir Walji to come and say a few words about the fundraising for the center and the raffle that he's organizing for the Eid day. So please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Wa Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad salawat. Well, it's nice to see a lot of new faces. I'm sure you're probably hearing this for the first time for this month. As you know, the Eid is approaching in the next week or so, 10 days, and we are requesting people to buy raffle tickets. I humbly ask you to buy as many as you can. Today is a big night to buy. Allah will give you all the rewards. Whatever you give, He will give you 70 times more. So I do know for a fact that the more you give, the more barakah you're going to get in your life. So as of tonight, if we can make a decision to say, buy as many tickets as we can. Again, they are $5 each. And what will happen is on Eid day, you have to be present with your tickets, and we're going to have a raffle drawing, and somebody will eventually get a gift. The gifts will be all presented to you guys after Sunday, and we'll let you know exactly what all the gifts we have. We are still looking for at least 2 or 3 volunteers to come forward to give me, if they want to donate towards the gifts. We do not accept any open box gifts. It has to be brand new. And if you just want to donate money towards that and want us to buy it, that's okay also. So you can just give me or myself or Brother Haider the cash, and we can provide those gifts for you. Again, if you don't want to buy the raffle tickets, it's a good time to just donate anything that you have towards the center. As you all know, that we do need funds for just running the center on a day-to-day basis. So if you're not willing to buy raffle tickets, then we do accept just regular donations if you want to, and you can see Heather buy for that. We do accept cash, credit cards, Zelle, PayPal, or checks. So there's multiple ways that if you feel that you want to pay us, there's multiple ways you can give money and donate towards this cause. As of right now, we do have a matching fund person who's going to be matching us $2,000. So if we raise $2,000, that donor will match $2,000 for our $2,000. So as of tonight, we have collected $460. For Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad salawat. So again, I would like to hopefully announce that we have $2,000 by Sunday on the night of the 23rd. So again, in the ladies' side, you can see Sister Umbreen, and in the gents' side, you can either see me or you can see Brother Haider. I will be here all evening tonight. I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here all evening Sunday night, and I'll be here through the Eid day. So if you are willing, please come and see me. Bar Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Jazakallah, Brother Muntazir, for organizing the raffle. It's definitely a fundraising activity, but at the same time, a good thing for the children. They get involved in the center, and it's a fun thing to do on the day of the Eid when we have the raffle drawing. So I'm sure Brother Muntazir will get nice presents, nice gifts. So please buy your tickets, and like he said, all the proceeds go towards running this center. With that, inshallah, we will continue our program. We have Sheikh Vinay Ketia with us today from Toronto. Sheikh has studied at various Islamic seminaries in London, Iraq, and Syria. He has an undergraduate degree in religious and Near Eastern studies from the University of Toronto, and an MA in the history and philosophy of religion from Concordia University. He's finishing his PhD in the Department of Religious Studies at McMaster University with a focus on the intellectual history of Islam, specifically Shiism. I'd now like to request Sheikh Vinay to come to the member with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
رحم الله من قرأ سورة المبارك الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من اللعين الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على خيرة خلق الله أجمعين وهو أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين وهو أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الميامين المهديين المقتولين، ولا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أرواحنا له الفداء، ولعنة الله دائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا إن الله فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلوا أو تعرضوا إن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. The ayah which I began with from Surah An-Nisa is the epitome of the description. Like it epitomizes the person of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ashabu Ali. Salamullahi alayhi. It epitomizes the call for justice and the love for justice in the Quran. As I mentioned in the previous night, love, the things that we love are discussed at length in the Quran. Right? What we should love, what we shouldn't love, misguided love, true love, so on and so forth. And the mu'min ideally loves things to be in their proper place. People and things should be in their proper place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a hierarchy in this world, in this universe, in this world. And everything has a specific place in this world. And when things are not put in their correct place, or something is given to someone or something that where it doesn't belong, then injustice occurs. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawamin bil qist shuhada lillah, that all you who believe, be those that stand for fair play, qist, in this world, testifying before God. Even if it be that you testify over your own parents. Why does Allah use such a description? Even our own parents, our own mother and father, or al-akrabeen, or our close ones, our relatives. In yakun ghaniyan or faqiran, fallahu awla bihima. That if they're rich or poor, Allah comes before them. Which brings me to the discussion of the previous night, the previous 2 nights, which is the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen was filled with this desire for fair play and justice in this world, to root out what I described as cronyism and nepotism. Basically where people's family and friends get a special discount on everything and everyone else pays full pop and full price. They get a special position, everyone else has to work their way up. Which is completely antithetical and in opposition to the message of the Quran and the Sunnah. And we saw last night that one of those individuals who supported Amir al-Mu'mineen and risked her own life was Asma bint Umays. And we spoke about her history and who she was and what she accomplished in her life. And perhaps I did not mention last night, but she was the last one among the Ma'asumeen, of the non-Ma'asumeen, and among those who are not the children of Sayyidah Zahra, to be with Sayyidah Zahra. It was her that pointed the bed of Sayyidah Zahra, or the body of Sayyidah Zahra, towards the Qibla just before she died. It was her, Asma bint Umays, who nursed Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha at her death. It was her that even partook in the ghusl of Sayyidah Zahra. Asma bint Umays had a very important role to play in Islam and in this deen. And it's for that reason I was not exaggerating when I said yesterday that we could easily compare her to the position of al-Baneen. And she had a son by the name of Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, among other children, as I spoke about yesterday. She had 2 children with Amir al-Mu'mineen, 1 son with Abu Bakr, and after the death of Abu Bakr, she married Amir al-Mu'mineen. Muhammad became the stepson of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but Amir al-Mu'mineen, as we'll see tomorrow night, never treated him as a stepson. He never spoke of him as a stepson. And what we're going to see today is the fact of Islamic history. Doesn't matter where you go and what you read about what I'm going to present here, pretty much. This is what it is. On one side you have Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, the first caliph, who then becomes a Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And not only a Shia, the staunchest supporter of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he stood for the very justice that Amir al-Mu'mineen called for throughout his life. That my point is that Muhammad bin Abi Bakr became the touchstone and the very manifestation of the hand of justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Despite the fact that his father was Abu Bakr and his sister was Aisha. Think of that. Things will get very uncomfortable in a few moments, because this is the history of Islam. This is not Shia history or Sunni history. This is the history of Islam. What I'm presenting here is what I would present what you would learn in any graduate seminar on Islamic history. Go read, as I said, Marshall Hodgson, the first volume called The Venture of Islam, or the works of Mahmud Ayub or other people. These are from Harvard, from University of Chicago, from Princeton. This is what's discussed. This is the irony, really, of Islam, of the history of Islam. Because on one hand, we have the son of Abu Bakr, the first caliph. On the other hand, we have Amir al-Mu'mineen, but the son of Abu Bakr becomes the greatest follower, among the greatest followers, and Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. But in order to understand the kind of background to what happened, we have to take ourselves to the period of the caliphate of the second Khalifa, Umar ibn al-Khattab. It was during his caliphate and after his death that Uthman was appointed as the Khalifa in the Shura system. So his will of the second Khalifa was that they would set up a council. Now the council was rigged from the beginning. If you read any historian, they're going to tell you, people like Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, the Ash'ari is on there. I mean, all kinds of interesting characters are on this council to appoint the next Khalifa. Amir al-Mu'mineen being just one of them. As Hodgson tells you, I mean, these are non-Muslim historians tell you as well, they appointed the weakest of them, which was Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan, of those that are on the council, were the weakest. To be appointed. Ali ibn Abi Talib was definitely not a choice because he would not uphold the precedent of the first two caliphs. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas turned against Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Al-Ash'ari, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari also turned against, not Abu Musa or Abdul Rahman, I don't remember his name, but Al-Ash'ari turned against Amir al-Mu'mineen as well. There was no recourse for Amir al-Mu'mineen at this point. Uthman now becomes the caliph of the Muslims. You need to understand this. We cannot understand the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen and his companions and their march for justice unless we understand what happened before. Uthman now becomes the Khalifa. Everyone knows in town that he is the weakest of them. Easily, unfortunately, misled. At the very least, we would say incompetent. And that would be, generous to say, incompetent. Uthman already now continued the policies of the second Khalifa Umar ibn al-Khattab, which was giving precedence to Banu Umayyah. Because they felt that Banu Umayyah were best placed to handle the finances. That people like Muawiyah and from the clan of the Umayyads were well known, they could handle the administrative affairs of the Muslim empire, of the burgeoning and growing Muslim empire. Especially in terms of military affairs, right? Muawiyah was well known for, navigating the sea and things like this, and trying to build up a naval force for the Muslim army. What happened under the caliphate of Umar now was cemented under the khilafat of Uthman ibn Affan. Now, what was already a bad situation now became exponentially worse. Uthman started appointing all of his own clansmen and buddies and friends to various positions, like the governor of Basra, or it was at this time that Muawiyah now took over all of Sham. Ibn Abi Amr, Muawiyah, we'll get to them. But basically he started appointing all of his people. People started saying, wait a second here, something is not right. Why is it all of your friends who are becoming leaders? And they're lining their pockets, one of them being a drunkard himself anyhow, in Basra. This is history. This is not Shia history, this is not Sunni history. If you go to any graduate seminar on Islamic thought, this is what you read about. This is what happened. Uthman started appointing all of these people who were thoroughly corrupt. From head to toe corrupt. And it was under him that Muawiyah was given the governorship of most of Sham. And it really led to the cementing of the power of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan in Damascus. Had this not happened, Hussein would not have been killed in Karbala. Had this not happened, Muawiyah would not have been able to become Khalifa and would not have been able to appoint Yazid. It began with the second Khalifa and then was totally cemented, and the Khatam was done under Uthman ibn Affan. Of course, because they're cousins. And it was known already that Ala Sufyan, the family of Sufyan, and Abu Sufyan and his kids, had hatred for Ali ibn Abi Talib and his children. This was well known. So you had two camps. You had Ala Abi Sufyan and Ala Ali. Now you have two camps in Islamic history. One from Bayt al-Nabuwah, from the house of the Prophet. One from the house of Abu Sufyan and his descendants. And it was Ali himself who tells him, who writes in a letter to Muawiyah. It was Ali himself who says this. This is well known. He says, on one hand, you are the son of fornication and zina, and I am the son of Fatima Zahra. Or rather, I'm the son of, we are from the progeny of the Prophet, and my children are from the descendants of Fatima Zahra. That I'm the son of Abu Talib, and who are you the son of? All you have in your background until now, until today, is alcoholism, womanizing behavior, and fornication. Just compare the credentials of my family to your family. He writes this in a letter. This is in history. He wrote this openly in a letter to Muawiyah. And the men that Muawiyah appointed then, these men, including Muawiyah and Uthman's governor in Basra, were shady characters. So complaint after complaint after complaint was lodged from Egypt and from Kufa, saying, you know what, this is not fair. The situation is getting out of control. Uthman kept pushing it down the road. And then he became aggressive towards them. Towards those that were telling him, look, this is unjust. What is going on in the Muslim empire? People getting money, this, that, all this kind of cronyism, nepotism, corruption, like we see today in a lot of the Muslim world, was going on very under the nose of Uthman ibn Affan, the third Khalifa. So for them, for the Kufans, for people like Kumail ibn Ziyad and Malik and others, Umar ibn al-Khattab was a problem. Uthman was now a bridge too far. Now this is too much, they said. Our values of justice and fair play in the society are going down the drain. Something needs to be done about this, because it doesn't seem that he is going to do anything himself. Now, here comes Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. Now this is how ironic things are, my dear brothers. Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, is among those that stormed the house of Uthman ibn Affan. This is in Tabari's Tariq. Muhammad breaks into the house of Uthman with Kumail ibn Ziyad. I don't know how many of you know Kumail ibn Ziyad was there as well. This Dua Kumail, the great Sahabi of Amir al-Mu'mineen. These men did not fear anyone when it came to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt. This is my point. It doesn't matter if you are Khalifatul Muslimin or you are a beggar in the street. When it comes to the rights of Allah and the rights of Ahlul Bayt, nobody for Kumail ibn Ziyad or Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr gets a free pass. Nobody. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, the adopted and stepson of Mawla Ali, enters the house of Uthman. And I'm reading exactly from the history book as to what is written. I'm reading exactly. I'm not interpolating. I'm not adding no mirchi masala on top. It is what it is. This is from Tabari's Tariq. Sunni, a very famous history, Tabari, everyone knows. Inna Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr akhada bilahiyatihi fahazaha. That Muhammad bin Abi Bakr comes in and grabs the beard of Uthman and begins to shake it. Think of who is Uthman and who is Muhammad bin Abi Bakr. Think of the guts it took. Think of the age difference here too. He comes into the house, puts him up against the wall, gives Uthman a piece of his mind. literally. He grabs his beard and he tells Uthman, today, Muawiyah is of no help to you. Today, Ibn Abi Sarah is of no help to you. These were some of the people who are the cronies of Uthman ibn Affan. He says, today you have me and you. Can you imagine? Muhammad, the son of the first caliph, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Quhafa, is holding the beard of Uthman ibn Affan and telling him, where is your Muawiyah today? Go call him, ask him for help. Oh yeah, he's not going to do anything. He's going to throw you down the river. Everyone knew Muawiyah was using Uthman. This was a well-known in history, that Uthman was a puppet being used by Muawiyah. That's why they appointed the weakest of them in the Shura to become the caliph, so those who want to do their plots can do their plots. And the second one was Ibn Abi Sarah. I mean, he was a real psychopath. We no need to go into him. I mean, this guy basically, some historians claim that he actually claimed prophecy in Nabuwah. I mean, these were some of the people that were in the circle of Uthman ibn Affan. وَمَا أَغْنَى عَنْكَ ibn Amir. Abdullah ibn Amr was the governor of Basra, Uthman's cousin, and the direct descendant of Hind. He hated Imam Ali and Imam al-Hasan. Uthman tells him, let go of my beard. Some traditions say Uthman began to cry. Talk about manliness, but we leave that aside here. So Muhammad bin Abi Bakr is holding the beard of Uthman. Uthman is so upset, like he can't believe it. Like, who are you? And then he tells him, your father would not be proud of you today. At that point, Muhammad let go of and left. The others came in and Uthman was stabbed and he was killed. But Muhammad did not participate in the murder of Uthman. There is no evidence. There's accusations, but there's no evidence that he did. Kumail ibn Ziyad was also with Muhammad at that time. These are the uncomfortable points. But the point is here, my objective here is not just to point this out. My objective is to show that the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib, for them, their love of justice, their love of fair play, their love and their desire to see a better world did not stop with anybody. It ain't no palace that's too big to be stormed for them, if the time comes to it. I mean, this is pretty rough stuff here. And the interesting part of this is that Uthman did not have any official bodyguard. Some traditions say Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein were there, but he did not have any official bodyguard per se. Because in those days, your prestige and your taqwa was all that you needed. If you had taqwa, you should not be touched, ideally, by the Muslim community. It wasn't like after during the Umayyads and Abbasids that you have guards surrounding the castle and the palace and this. No. It is, if you are truly a pious and just person, then you can protect yourself. Going to the Battle of Jamal now, the Battle of the Camel, right? That Muawiyah instigated, the wife of the Prophet, to fight against Amir al-Mu'mineen, blaming Amir al-Mu'mineen for the death of Uthman ibn Affan. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr would play a pivotal role in the Battle of Jamal. But was he fighting on the side of his sister, or was he fighting on the side of Amir al-Mu'mineen? He was fighting on the side of Amir al-Mu'mineen against his own sister. That's another ironic part of history. So you have the Shia of Ali, Muhammad the son of Abu Bakr, in a state of war, defending himself, of course, because it was Aisha that started the war that went to Basra to fight them. But even then, Amir al-Mu'mineen commanded Muhammad to treat his sister with the utmost respect. never to violate any of her rights. In fact, he sends Muhammad. After the battle finishes, he says, go and attend to your sister. Yes, we will put her under arrest, house arrest, in a house in Basra. But Muhammad went to check that she had no wounds. She had one cut, one scratch. He documented that, accounted for that, and he took care of his own sister and sent her back off to Medina. He could have easily, Amir al-Mu'mineen could have easily done something that, out of anger, na'udhu although he wouldn't easily do that, but a non-ma'asum, or somebody who doesn't have control over their nafs, out of anger, could have done anything. Technically, they lost the war. But look at the respect that was shown to Aisha. Was that respect shown to Sayyidah Zainab? Was that respect shown to Kulthum? Was that respect shown to Rubab? Look at the respect and hurmat given to Aisha, who's fighting the Imam of her time. Fighting the Imam of her time. Right? This is a person that went into sajda when Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed. Doing shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, when the news had come that he was killed. Yet Amir al-Mu'mineen still gives her that respect that is due to a wife of the Prophet. This is the message of Islam. We never exceed anyone's bounds and hurmat and sanctity. Yet Banu Umayyah, on that day, leave aside imprisoning Sayyidah Zainab. They couldn't even respect her attire of her clothing. If that is not a difference between Abu Sufyan and Muawiyah and their sunnah and their heritage and the heritage of Ali ibn Abi Talib and Ahlul Bayt and Banu Hashim, I don't know what a difference is. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Muhammad bin Abi Bakr would go on to become the governor of Amir al-Mu'mineen in Egypt. I don't know how many of you know this. Before Malik al-Ashtar, Muhammad was appointed to be the governor of Egypt. Tomorrow night we'll talk about more what happened. It's a very sad story. It's a heartbreaking story. But Muhammad is appointed as a governor of Egypt. Before he becomes governor, or sometime during this period, he writes a letter to Muawiyah. This letter is preserved in Ansab al-Ashraf, Waqa'atu Sifin, and other early sources of Islamic history. The contents of this letter are explosive. And the amazing thing is that the early Islamic historical records have preserved some of these letters. This is a very interesting thing that we have. So he writes to Muawiyah in this letter, and I will read to you just a few portions of it so you can understand how he was a follower of Mawla Ali. What does it mean? He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, min Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr ila al-Ghawi ibn Sakhar. That from Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr to the misguided son of Sakhar. We won't even translate that. Okay. Salamun ala ahli ta'atillah. Peace be upon those that obey Allah, for every Muslim who is in the wilayat of Allah. He then goes on to say that Allah created us as servants. Some of us are successful and some of us are losers. Allah chose and sent His messenger, and Ali was the first to believe in him. He was the first to submit to him. Aslama wa aslama akhuhu ibn ammihi Ali ibn Abi Talib فَصَدَقَهُ بِالْغَيْبِ الْمَكْتُومِ, and he believed in him in the unseen. وَآثَرُهُ عَلَى كُلِّ حَمِيمٍ, and over every pain and punishment he would prefer himself to that of the Prophet, that he would be punished, that he would experience pain over the pain of the Prophet. وَوَقَاهُ كُلِّ هَوْلٍ, and he would protect the Prophet from every terror, from every fear. وَوَصَاهُ بِنَفْسِهِ فِي كُلِّ خَوْفٍ, and in every fear and every jeopardy he would put himself in front of the Prophet. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr is describing his Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen to Muawiyah. And he says, O Muawiyah, فَحَارَبَ حَرْبَهُ. The war of the Prophet is a war of Ali. وَسَالِمٌ سِلْمَهُ. Don't we read this? In which ziyarat do we read this? Ashura. Way before ziyarat Ashura, these words were uttered by Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. So the kalam in ziyarat Ashura is being repeated in so many different ways. We'll see tomorrow that the second half of ziyarat Ashura is almost found entirely in the response of Muawiyah to Muhammad bin Abi Bakr. It's amazing how even the enemy of Allah can speak the truth and then get caught for what they're saying. He says that no one could claim this but Ali ibn Abi Talib. He says that لا نذير له في جهاده. That in his jihad and in his struggle, there is no one like Ali. لا مقارب له في فعله. There is no one that comes close to him in his action. This is Muhammad bin Abi Bakr describing Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says that I have seen that you are trying to outshine him. You claim that you are superior to him. Anta wa huwa huwa. You are you and he is he. Do not dare, O Muawiyah, try to compare yourself to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Awwala nas Islaman. He was the first of the Muslims. Wa asdaqu nas niyatan. And he was the most truthful of having intentions among all the Muslims. No one's niyyah could be compared to the niyyah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Nobody. يَخْبِرُهُ بِسِرِّهِ. The Prophet would entrust him with his secrets. وَيُشْرِكُهُ فِي أَمْرِهِ. And he would join him and make him a partner in his affair. وَأَنْتَ عَدُوهُ وَابْنَ عَدُوَّ. You are his enemy, the son of his enemy. And you claim that you are something? You claim you are somebody? You claim you're Khalifatul Muslimin? You claim this or claim that, this and that? You are nothing, he said. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr is telling Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. I mean, how righteous is this? This is very interesting. This is not in the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen or Imam al-Hassan. This is in the words of the son of the first Khalifa of the Muslims. What is an example of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preferred Amir al-Mu'mineen over all of creation? We read in the riwayah from Tusis Amali that when the Prophet went for the night journey, he says, Usriya bi wa fataha lahu. Usra bi. Asra bi wa fataha lahu abwabu sama. He says that I was taken for a night journey and the heavens and the veils were opened. Thumma baka Rasulullah. And then Rasulullah cried. Rasulullah cried. And then the first words, and then he says, وَقَدْ فَتَحْتُ وَنَذَرْتُ إِلَى عَلِي. And he says that then it's almost like the heaven underneath me opened. And I looked down, وَنَذَرْتُ إِلَى عَلِي. And I looked towards Ali. Ali's head looked up towards me. I looked towards him. That the heart of the Prophet in the angelic realm is connecting with the heart of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the angelic realm. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to me. Abdullah bin Abbas asked the Prophet, what did Allah tell you? What did Allah tell you at this moment? He said, Ya Muhammad, inni ja'altu aliyan wasiyak. That, oh Allah, I have made Ali to be your successor, your wasi. Wa wazirak, and your minister. Wa khalifatuka, and your vice-regent, min ba'dik. So teach him everything that you know. Where does this take place? In the night journey. Allah tells the Prophet, now teach Ali everything that you know, everything that is in your heart. وَعَلَّمُهُ فَهَا هُوَ يَسْمَعُ كَلَامَكَ. And he will listen to your words. So the Prophet is transferring all of his spiritual knowledge, everything he knows of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of the secrets in his heart, everything that is within himself is transferring over to Amir al-Mu'mineen. وَأَنَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَبِّي. And the Prophet says, and I was in front of my Lord as this was happening. by the command of my Lord and the words of my Lord.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And Muhammad bin Abi Bakr tells, this is not a part of the letter, I'm just adding this as an example. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr continues and he says, I don't want to go on and on here, but he basically says that you and your father have been rebels since the beginning of Islam. Tajhadan ala itfa nurillah. While we have struggled to spread the light of Allah, you two have struggled to put the light of Allah out. فَكَيْفَ يَا لَكَ الْوَيْلْ تَعْدَلُ نَفْسِكْ بِعَلِي. Cursed are you that you want to compare yourself to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Taliq ibn Taliq, convict, son of a convict. These are what you call the last minute Muslims. Ru'us al-Nifaq, the chief and the head of hypocrisy. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, this is in the Muslim history. This is not Sheikh Vinay coming and pulling from here, from a Maulana's khutbah. No. Ansab al-Ashraf al-Baladuri, one of the very famous books of history written during the early Abbasid period. Muslims can't just go left and right to get around this fact. They can say Muhammad was wrong, he was incorrect, he was misguided, fine. But you can't say he made this up. You can't say that an opinion or a view did not exist in the Muslim Ummah and the community that believed that Amir al-Mu'mineen was one, the successor of the Prophet, was two, the most virtuous after the Prophet, and was three, that Muawiyah and his family were misguided rebels that entered Islam. You can say that I don't agree with it, but you can't say it doesn't exist and to believe in it is kufr. If that's the case, then Muhammad bin Abi Bakr is the first kafir. And no one will claim Muhammad bin Abi, the son of Abu Bakr, is a kafir. Or a murtad or whatever, a heretic. No one will claim that. Even in the books of history, when you look at the biographies on Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, right? You go to the books of Tarajim and Rijal, it's an uncomfortable situation. He was a pious person. But they have to admit that he had great hatred and animosity for Uthman and Muawiyah. And he had undivided loyalty to Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Undivided. We'll see tomorrow what happens. Oh no, the story of Mu'mineen, this is just the beginning of the story here. There's more that occurs. That the path of Ali is not a path of ease. Hubbu Ali, Ya Ali, Nara Haydari. No. That goes down a path that can be very treacherous for Muhammad. What we'll discuss what happens tomorrow is very difficult times. This letter to Muawiyah would have profound consequences for him. Muawiyah, first of all, does not like these kinds of letters. Secondly, from Ali is one thing. From Muhammad bin Abi Bakr, he says, this ungrateful Fulan ibn Fulan. You see, how do I explain this? He popped the bubble of the ego of Muawiyah. And when you take Muawiyah to fight, Muawiyah is brutal. We'll see tomorrow. This man was brutal. He was 10 steps ahead of everybody in the game. I mean, as Imam al-Baqir, salamullahi alayhi, he tells us, Imam Baqir says, when he was asked, when he describes the aql as the aql is that by which iktasaba bihi al-jinan, that when you use your intellect, that's what brings you towards Allah's Jannah, that it brings you towards the pleasure of Allah. Imam Baqir was asked, but what about Muawiyah? Because if there was anyone that was brilliant, it was Muawiyah. Imam Baqir answers, salamullahi alayhi, he says, no. هذا شبيحة العقل. It's something that pretends to be aql, but it's shaitana, it's shaitan's trickery. But Satan's trickery can present itself as aql when it's not in the way of Allah and Ahlul Bayt. So be very careful, my dear brothers, of what you think is aql, what you think is intelligence, what you think makes sense. Because it can very well masquerade as intellect. It may not be intellect. It may be you or I just fooling ourselves to think it is, but really it's Satan in the driver's seat. As we saw in the case of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Before I proceed, I want to end on one more point. Since this is a Friday night and this is Dhikru Ali ibn Abi Talib. Dhikru Ali ibadah. Remembrance of Ali is ibadah. As we read in the traditions that the one who listens to the fadail of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that their ears are cleansed of their dhunub, their sins. It's narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So, with that in mind, now pay attention. What is the fulcrum for distinguishing superiority in Islam? The fulcrum, the criteria. Allah has given it in the Holy Quran, Quran Majid. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. That the most honorable in front of Allah is the most pious. This is the fulcrum, the criteria, the meat that determines who is who in humanity. Now let us compare. Number one with Amir al-Mu'mineen. In their own words. As narrated in the Tabaqat of Ibn Sa'ad, many other sources. Early sources of Islamic history. Again, I'm not pulling here and there, just trying to get people excited. This is in the early history. In which the first Khalifa says, and this is in many different forms, he says this. And I'm not embellishing, I'm going to read exactly, so people don't think I'm again adding garam masala on things here. He says, Inna li shaytanan ya'tarini. He says that I have a Satan, I have a shaitan that never lets go of me. Ya'tirini. Ya'tirini. It's always coming to me. Ya'tirini. فَإِنْ إِسْتَقَمْتُ فَعْيُونِي فَعْيَنُونِي. And if I come straight, he assists me. وَإِنْ زِقْتُ فَقَوِّمُونِي. And if I am going astray, he empowers me. I don't want to get into the discussion of what this means, but nevertheless, there is an interesting alaka and relationship between shaitan and this individual. And this is mentioned in 10, 15 different sources. Very well known, while on the mimbar, according to some. That he has a struggle, just like we all have a struggle with shaitan. He says, I have a shaitan, and he misguides me, and I have trouble with it. Okay, fine. A complicated relationship, nevertheless. What does Mawla Ali, how does he describe himself, Mawla Ali, salamullahi alayhi? Let's see. You want to see? Shall I narrate how Mawla Ali describes himself? Not as someone else describing Mawla Ali. Go to Nahj al-Balagha, Kalam 224. Kalam lahu. Where Mawla says, Wallahi, lo u'titu al-aqalim al-sab'a bima tahta aflaqiha. He says, Wallah, if I was given everything in the universe, everything under the planets, tahta aflaqiha, an a'si Allah fi namlatin aslabuha julba sha'ira ma fa'altu. That if I was given everything under the heavens and the aflaq, the celestial bodies were in my hand. Basically, he's almost saying if I was next to God himself, basically I own the universe. But ala an a'si Allah, on the condition that I disobey Allah concerning the feather on an ant. A single hair on an ant. Julba sha'ira. Aslabuha. That I would even take. You can't even see it. Can you? I think ants have some fiber on them. A single fiber. Julba sha'ira. From an ant. Ma fa'altu. I would not do it. Who is he and who is he? Anta wa huwa. Come on, you can't compare. There is no muqarana, there's no qiyas, there's no analogy to be made in the afdaliyah. It's not possible, it is mustahil, it is childish to go down such a road. You can't, it's nonsensical. Ali does not entertain his falling prey to Satan every now and then. Yeah, we're all human beings. We fall prey, yeah. But we don't compare ourselves to Ali ibn Abi Talib, salamullahi alayhi. And then he says, Allahu Akbar. Only Mawla Ali can say something like this. He says, Inna dunyakum indi, that your world, not mine, your world in my eyes, لأهون من ورقة في فم جرادة تقضمها. That your world in my eyes is so meaningless, it is less meaningful and significant than a piece of paper, just like a tiny equivalent like this, in the mouth of a locust chewing it up. This is the world. It's less than this to me. We're not talking about 10 by 11, brothers, or whatever, 9 by 11. We're talking about a tiny piece of paper that would fit in the mouth of jarada, of a locust. Probably not even this big, probably like this big. And he says the dunya is not even worth this in my eyes. Dunyakum, your dunya, not mine. Don't compare your dunya to me. We are not Ali ibn Abi Talib. We are not like Ali ibn Abi Talib. We will never be like Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is why he is Imam al-Muttaqeen, Amir al-Mu'mineen. That is why he is Aynullah fil khalq, Lisanullah natiq. That's why he is the speaking tongue of Allah. Not literally, metaphorically, of course. That's why he's the eye of Allah. The container that contains the asrar of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's why we follow him unconditionally. Fi dunya wal akhirah. Now if I had to compare this individual with those individuals and make an objective decision, without putting down anybody, without insulting, it's not about insulting anybody. Just make an objective decision of who do I want to follow, their sunnah, their sharia, their fiqh, their path, their line, their tariqah. And make a choice. I mean, I wasn't born into this. I wasn't born Muslim and I wasn't born Shia. But this is my conviction and my aqidah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa alihi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
No wonder we read in Ziyarah Jamia, Amina man laja'a ilaykum. Saved is the one who seeks refuge with you. When we are poor, we find Ali, we become rich. When we are sick, we find Ali, we become cured. When we are scared, we find Ali and we become safe again. That is the door of Ali ibn Abi Talib, salamullahi alayhi. Qiblatul Arifin. He's the direction of anyone who wants to have any knowledge. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And I'll just end with one more, and then we will mention about the night of Musibah. Let us compare one more thing. Just because we're on a roll, let's finish now. In battle, the third Khalifa disappeared from Uhud. This is a famous fact, nothing against. People get scared. Maybe I would disappear too. Again, maybe I would. I don't know. Allah knows best. We don't sit on our high horse and claim we are this and that. But we weren't there, and Allah hasn't tested us with that. He returns 3 days later. 3 days later. I don't know how long it took to return. On the other hand, what does Amir al-Mu'mineen say about himself? Shall I narrate to you? Wallahi lo tadhaharat al-Arab alay al-Arab al-Arab alay qitali lama walaytu. That if all the Arab came to fight me, I would not turn my face from them. Wallahi lo tadhaharat al-Arab qitali alay al-Arabu alay qitali lama walaytu. Leave aside disappearing for 3 days or 4 days or 1 day or 1 hour or 1 moment. All the Arabs, if they come, who can claim this in the Muslim Ummah? No wonder Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam could kill 1,000 men in Ashura. Why is this not possible? I don't understand why Mu'mineen say that we are over-exaggerating when we describe the courage of Imam al-Hussein. If he is the son of Haydar al-Karrar, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sahib al-Raya, then his son Abu Abdullah would be a lion on the battlefield. With one strike, who knows how many men would go? With another strike, how many men would go? My dear brothers and sisters, this is not exaggeration, this is not ghulu, this is not, we're not just making stories up for people to say wah 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 wah. No. There were men that existed like this and do in the person of the 12th Imam. We have to believe in them. Our salvation and security is through our belief in them, our love for them, and our obedience to their sunnah and their sharia as taught by them. And we come to the 21st of Ramadan where again these lessons are taught. Where we hear screaming, as-salah, as-salah. And on the other hand we hear a deluded statement, al-hukm lillah la lak. That the rule is for Allah, not for you, and the sword comes crashing into the skull of Amir al-Mu'mineen. After all those years of struggling for justice and fair play, a sword comes landing into the head of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam confronts him, and he tells him, do you know what he told him? He says, have I not done good by you, Ibn Muljam? Have I not done good by you? Can you imagine that statement? Ibn Muljam was treated with such kindness by Amir al-Mu'mineen during his life. And he asks him, have I not done good by you? And his answer is what? At this point, Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein were commanded by Amir al-Mu'mineen to send the people home. That the people go home because chaos is breaking loose in the city of Medina. He's sitting with Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, his sons, Kulthum and Sayyidah Zainab. He begins to give them pieces of advice, brothers. Listen to this. He says, Usikuma bitaqwallah. That I advise you to have the consciousness of Allah. I advise you not to run after this world. I advise you that if things are taken from you, don't cry over this world. Why? Because he's remembering the day when the chadar will be taken of Kulthum. Why is he saying if things are taken from you? Why is he telling Kulthum that if things are taken from you, La tabkiya ala shay. Don't cry over these things. Meaning, don't lose hope in Allah. Don't cry, but don't lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Speak the truth. Have mercy on the orphans. This is the guidance of Amir al-Mu'mineen before his death. Kunu lil zalim khasma. That be an enemy to the oppressor and an assistant and a nasir to the oppressed. work, he's addressing Kulthum and Sayyidah Zainab. Fight and work for the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I advise you to be loyal to your two brothers, Hassan and Hussein. Salamullahi alayhi. He now turns to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. He says, I advise you about Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, because knowing Muhammad ibn Hanafiya may be left out. Look at the rahmah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. At his death, he's worried that Muhammad may be left out from the other two sons. So he reminds Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, who of course don't need a reminder, the Imam Ma'soom, it's a lesson for us, that even at our final moment, Mu'mineen, Mawla Ali is looking at Adal and Qist. Justice, mercy, rahmah. Yet in this Muslim ummah, what do we see? 30 of the mu'mineen blown up in masjid in Afghanistan, and hundreds, if not, in the last few days. And this man is so merciful that he's worried that he's addressing Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein to be kind to Muhammad ibn Hanafiya after his death, because he would not be here to watch over Muhammad anymore. Subhanallah, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Even in his dying moments, he's reminding us of our haqq towards our brothers. That family is very important, Mu'mineen. He goes on to say his final will. He says, pardon people, pardon people. Keep family relations with people. I am Ali ibn Abi Talib. And I testify that there is no God but Allah. I testify that He has no partner. I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Abduhu wa Rasulah arsaluhu bil huda wa deenul haq. I testify that he was sent with guidance in the true religion. O Hassan and all my children, to whomever this reaches, La tumutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Do not die except that you die as Muslims. I'tasimu bihablillahi jami'an wa la tafarraku. Hold fast to the rope of Allah and do not separate from one another. He says, for I heard the Rasulullah say, Sulu that bain afdalu min amat as-salah wa siyam, because bringing two people together is better than namaz and siyam. My dear brothers, if there's husband and wife that are having problems tonight, make up. That is Islah, that is bain. This is the final kalam of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Come together. This is to bring two people together is better than the general salah and siyam together. Imagine the final kalam of Amir al-Mu'mineen is for us to be united on the rope of Allah. Husband with wife, father with son, mother with children, brother with sister, holding to the habl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and do not disunite from one another. He then says, pay attention to your relatives. He then speaks of the orphans. He says, Wallah, wallah fil fuqara wal masakin. He says, by Allah, I warn you about the poor and the masakin. Fashrukuhum fi ma'ashikum. Be with them in your life, for if you are not with them, he's saying, then you have not obeyed my wasiyah. If the fuqara are not beloved to you, then you are not beloved to me, Mawla Ali is saying. Salamullahi alayhi. After some time, Asbaq bin Nubata enters the room where Mawla Ali is. He comes in after some struggle. Imam Hassan allows Asbaq bin Nubata to come in. He falls upon the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, Akbabtu alayhi wa qabbaltuhu. I fell upon him and I began kissing him. Wa baqaytu, and I began to cry. He says, why are you crying? Ya Asbaq, I am going to Jannah. He says, no. Abki ala fiqdanik. I'm crying because I'm going to leave you, Ya Mawla. That you are going to leave us. Asbaq then says that Mawla's head was so yellow I could not tell if his turban was yellow or his face was yellow. Then the houses in the buyut of Kufa began to deliver milk to the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We're told that the cries of men and women could be heard racing towards the home of Mawla Ali. It would only get louder and louder as the night went on. This is now the 21st night of Shahr Ramadan. The riwayat say that sounds and aswat could be heard from the sama, from the earth, from the heavens, and from everywhere. The tasbih could be heard. Alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. That the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be heard. But rather it was the jinn and the ins eulogizing Amir al-Mu'mineen. It was not much longer on the night of the 21st that the Imam said, La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. The riwayah says he kept saying La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Until in the 40th year of Hijrah on the 21st of Ramadan, he died in the presence of Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The riwayah says that the Hassanain salamullahi alayhima performed the ghusl with Abdullah ibn Ja'far. During the ghusl, Imam Hussein passed the water to Imam al-Hassan and they washed the body. Muhammad bin Hanafiya says, in fact, the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen would turn by itself. That Imam Hassan did not even have to lift the body of his father. That it would turn by itself as they were performing the ghusl. Sayyidah Zainab would do the hunut, would give the fragrance for the hunut. Imam's kafan was now done, salamullahi alayhi. The takfeen was done. He was placed onto a stretcher and he was guided by Jibreel and Mikael now. With the hands of Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. At some point, some of the mu'mineen wanted to follow Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Hassan, of which the Imam said no, because the burial was a secret. At which point Imam al-Hussein says, La hawla wa la quwwatu illa billah al-ali al-azim. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is the kalam of Imam al-Hussein. He says, Ya abati, oh my father, my back is now broken. Oh my father, I protest to Allah as to what was done to you. His grave was marked with a white rock. On it was written, this is the things that Nabi Nuh has kept for Ali ibn Abi Talib. But Ya Hussein, a day would come when your back would be broken, isn't it? Salamullahi alayhi. Let us go to Ashura now. I just mentioned the day when Imam al-Hussein's back was broken, but it would be broken again, my dear mu'mineen. The day when he hears the cries, Wa Abbasa Wa Abbasa that the riwayah states that as he ran into the battlefield to his brother Abbas, all Imam was screaming was, Wa Abbas! Wa Thamaratu Muhjata! Oh my brother Abbas! Ya Qamara Munira! Ya Aini! Oh my light of my eyes! Ya Abbas! The riwayah said that the Imam screamed after scream after scream as he galloped into the battlefield to reach his brother Abbas salamullahi alayhi. This was the day that broke the back of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The riwayah states that Sayyidah Zainab came out and she began to scream, Wa Abasa! Wa Abasa! Waha! That all we hear is scream after scream after scream until he comes to the body of Abi Fadl Abbas. And what does he say, Mu'mineen? Shall we relate this now? Shall we relate what he says? Al-an inkasara dhahri wa qillat hilati. That now my back is broken and my forbearance has waned. The riwayah states that he put the head of Abi Fadl Abbas in his lap. He began to wipe the blood from his face. But there was a problem, brothers and sisters. Shall I narrate what the problem was? He could not bring the body back to the camp. The body of Abbas had to stay where it was. Why? Because it was in so many pieces, mu'mineen. The body of Abbas could not be taken back. Imagine that scene. The broken back of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam over the body of his brother Abbas salamullahi alayhi ala la'natullahi lakum al-zalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ.
علی مولا حیدر مولا علی مولا حیدر مولا علی مولا حیدر مولا علی مولا حیدر مولا
علی مولا یا 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 علی مولا ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا ہائے چھٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا ہائے چھٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ہائے چھٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا قبر سونی رسول خدا ہے گھر میں زہرا کے آؤ بکا ہے خاک اڑاتا ہے حیدر کا کنبہ روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزہ دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے دل ہلاتے ہیں زینب کے نالے خاک اڑاتے ہیں سب کنبے والے اٹھ رہا ہے علی کا سہارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے حال احمد پہ آفت ہے آئی بے قصوں پر یتیمی ہے چھائی اٹھ گیا سر سے حیدر کا سایہ روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن سب مل کے ماشاءاللہ حیدر کو مارا سب مل کے ماشاءاللہ سب مل کے آواز ہے ہائے چھٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے گھر میں خالق کے حیدر کو مارا جانشین پیمبر کو مارا ہائے سجدے میں سرور کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ہائے چھٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے بے پدہ کر دیا ہے حسن کو کس نے لوٹا نبی کے چمن کو خون بھرا صحن مسجد ہے سارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ہائے چھٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا روزے دار و قیامت کے دن ہے روئے شبیر روتی ہے زینب چاک سینہ نمازی ہوئے سب پیٹ کر سر مؤذن پکارا دار و قیامت کے دن ہے ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا روزے دار و قیامت ابن ملج ستم کیا ڈھایا قبر میں سیدہ کو رلایا ہوگا مشکل میں کیسے گزارا
روزے داروں قیامت کے دن ہے
ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا
روزے داروں قیامت کے دن ہے
ہائے لٹتا ہے مولا تمہارا
روزے داروں قیامت کے دن ہے
یا حسین
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 اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے حسرت برس رہی ہے ایک ایک بام در سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے یہ کس کو رو رہی ہے زینب تڑپ تڑپ پر کس کو رو رہی ہے زینب تڑپ تڑپ پر یہ کس کو رو رہی ہے زینب تڑپ تڑپ کر جنت میں سیدہ نے چادر گرا دی سر سے کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے جس نے خدا کے گھر کو بخشی تھی کہ زینت جس نے خدا کے گھر کو بخشی تھی کہ زینت جس نے خدا کے گھر کو بخشی تھی کہ زینت وہ آج ہو رہا ہے رخصت خدا کے گھر سے
اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے
اٹھا کوئی جنازہ
پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے
زینب کے بازوؤں کو شبیر چومتے ہیں زینب کے بازوؤں کو
شبیر چومتے ہیں
زینب کے بازوؤں کو شبیر چومتے ہیں کیا جانی علی نے کیا کہہ دیا پسر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے قاتل کو اپنے ٹھنڈا شربت پلانے والا قاتل کو اپنے ٹھنڈا شربت پلانے والا قاتل کو اپنے ٹھنڈا شربت پلانے والا بے چین ہو رہا ہے خود زہر کے اثر سے اٹھا
کوئی جنازہ
پھر کے گھر سے اٹھا کوئی جنازہ، پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے کوفے کا ذرہ ذرہ روتا ہے خوں کے آنسو، کوفے کا ذرہ ذرہ روتا ہے خوں کے آنسو، کوفے کا ذرہ ذرہ روتا ہے خوں کے آنسو، محروم ہو رہے ہیں حسنین پدر سے، اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے، اٹھا کوئی جنازہ پھر سیدہ کے گھر سے،
ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے درد کی جبین، یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے درد کی جبین، یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے درد کی جبین، یوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، یہ تیغ چلی کس کے سر پر، زخمی ہوئے سجدے میں حیدر، کیوں ہلنے لگا ہے عرش بری، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، کرتی ہیں اذان باویلا، مسجد کا صحن ہے فرش ادا، حیدر کے لہو سے تر ہے زمین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، کیوں روزے دار پہ ظلم کیا تو نے بن مجرم، یہ تو بتا شک ہو گئی کیوں مولا کی جبین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، وہ شاہ عرب وہ شیر خدا، وہ نفس نبی وہ دست خدا، کیوں تیغ چلائی دشمن دی، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، عباس تڑپ کر روتے ہیں، رخصت میرے مولا ہوتے ہیں، گر جائے فلک پھٹ کر نہ کہیں، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، ترخوں میں ہوئی ہے در کی جبین، کیوں روتے ہیں جبریل امین، جاؤ سے یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر گیر کا یہ جنازہ ہے. سب مل کے ماشاءاللہ. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا ماشاءاللہ. خیبر گیر کا یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. سب مل کے ماشاءاللہ. آدم یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. فاطمہ زہرا کے مرقد سے صدا آنے لگی. فاطمہ زہرا سب مل کے مرقد سے صدا آنے لگی. ہے صدا آنے لگی. یہ مصائب رہ گیا تھا کیا میری تقدیر کا. جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا ماشاءاللہ. مومن جناب سیدہ کا پرسہ دینا ہے. آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. جنازہ ہے علی کا. یا رسول اللہ یہ جبریل نے رو کر کہا. یا رسول اللہ یہ جبریل نے رو کر کہا. ہائے یہ رو کر کہا. ایک حلقہ اور ٹوٹا نور کی زنجیر کا. جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. ماشاءاللہ مومن. جنازہ ہے علی کا. آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. کیوں چلائی تیغ حیدر ابن ملجم بتا. کیوں چلائی تیغ حیدر ابن ملجم بتا. ابن ملجم بتا. قتل قرآن کر دیا کاٹا گلا تفسیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیر. ماشاءاللہ مومنین مولا سلامت رکھے. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے. غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے. ہائے تازہ ہو گئے. غم ابھی بھولی کہاں تھی مادر دلگیر کا. جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. یہ کو غم نہ جا سوائے غم حسین کا. آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا. غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے. غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے کہاں تھی مادر دلگیر کا؟
جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، چاہے خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔
نظروں میں جانے علی کو کیا خیال آتا رہا، نظروں میں جانے
علی کو کیا خیال آتا رہا،
ہائے خیال آتا رہا۔ منہ کبھی زینب کا دیکھا اور کبھی شبیر کا،
جنازہ ہے علی کا،
یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا،
چاہے خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔
بیٹیوں کو دیکھتے ہیں اور روتے ہیں علی،
بیٹیوں کو دیکھتے ہیں اور روتے ہیں علی،
ہائے روتے ہیں علی، ہائے وہ ظالم تصور شام کی تشہیر کا،
جنازہ ہے علی کا،
یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، چاہے خیبر گیر کا،
جنازہ ہے علی کا۔
آج بابا مر گیا ہے
شبر و شبیر کا،
یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا،
چاہے خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔
آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا،
جنازہ ہے علی کا۔
یا حسین
یا حسین،
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 یا حسین
یا
یا
حسین،
حسین
یا
یا
حسین،
حسین
یا حسین۔
مومنوں ہے در کرار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے در کرار کا ماتم، سب مل کے مومنوں ہے در کرار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے در کر، سمجھ کے ماشاءاللہ ماتمیوں کے لیے پڑھا ہے میں نے، یہ سب ماتمیوں کے لیے۔ مومنوں ہے در کر
کا ماتم کر لو،
لو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے در کر
کا ماتم کر لو،
مومنوں ہے در کرار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے در کرار کا ماتم کر لو، لو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے در کرار
کا ماتم کر لو،
پر خاک اڑاؤ کہ علی شیر خدا مارے گئے، خاک اڑاؤ
کہ علی شیر خدا مارے گئے،
خاک اڑاؤ کہ علی شیر خدا مارے گئے، بازوئے احمد مختار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے
در کرار کا ماتم کر لو،
لو محمد کے علم
دار کا ماتم کر لو،
لو در کرار کا ماتم کر لو، مومنوں ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو محمد کے علم
دار کا ماتم کر لو
جو کہ پانچوں میں بھی ہے 12 اماموں میں بھی ہے جو کہ پانچوں
میں بھی ہے
ماشاءاللہ
12 اماموں میں بھی ہے
جو کہ پانچوں میں بھی ہے 12 اماموں میں بھی ہے سارے نبیوں کے مدد گار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے
رار کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو ہے
رار کا ماتم کر لو
مل کے جبریل کے استاد کا پرسا دے دو مل کے جبریل کے استاد کا پرسا دے دو صاحب دل و تلوار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے
رار کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر
رار کا ماتم کر لو
اپنے قاتل کو دیا جس نے کہ جامے شیریں اپنے قاتل کو دیا
جس نے کہ جامے
شیریں اپنے قاتل کو دیا جس نے کہ جامے شیریں کوثری جام کے مختار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر
رار کا ماتم کر لو
بولو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر
رار کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو ہے در کر
رار کا ماتم کر لو
یا حسین
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 تمام مومنین مومنات کی صحت و سلامتی کے لیے ایک عدد بار ہے نعرہ صلوات محمد متوجہ زیارت اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أزور ساداتي وموالي قربة الله تعالى. السلام على رسول الله، السلام على حبيب الله، السلام على الرسول المسدد، السلام على أبي القاسم محمد. السلام عليك يا سيدي مولاي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على أمير المؤمنين، السلام على إمام المتقين، السلام على يعسوب الدين، السلام على إمام الإنس والجان، السلام على أسد الله الغالب، السلام على علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدتي ومولاتي سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا سيدتي ومولاتي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدي ومولاي أبي محمد الحسن ابن علي الزكي الولي الناصح الأمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدي ومولاي أبي عبد الله الحسين، السلام عليك يا سيدي ومولاي وعلى ولديك العليين، السلام عليك وعلى أولادك وأصحابك المستشهدين بين يديك.
السلام عليك وعلى أخيك بالفضل عباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك وعلى أختك الحوراء زينب ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على ساداتي وموالي أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة القائم المهدي. عجل الله تعالى فرجك سيدي، وعجل فرجك وسهل مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أتباعك وأعوانك وأنصارك والذابين عنك والمستشهدين بين يديك، ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات ومن مات على الإيمان، وإلى أرواح أمواتنا جميعا، وإلى أرواح المراجع والعلماء والشهداء، خصوصا الشيخ علي أرسطو رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة قبلها الصلاة على محمد